to everyone.
At least 50% of his class has his grade or lower. Is moving towards everything race.
And the police comes and they say, well, we can't do anything.
Of course, all opinions are my own, not my employer's.
Period.
Hello. Welcome. It's Wednesday and it's Pop and Politics. Tonight we are back with the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, and let me introduce you to the rest of my hosts. We have Shelly E, we have Yana, we have Xandria, and T. All right. Yes. So join the conversation by leaving a comment on our Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Check us out online at www.metroconservativemedia.com for update information. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, ladies, let's set it off. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing well.
Good.
Early Thanksgiving.
Yes. Well, before we get yes, happy Thanksgiving. So before we get into our topics tonight, I wanted to just talk about just some breaking news out today. The three white men who chased down and killed Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old black man who was jogging through Georgia neighborhood last year, were all found guilty of murder charges. So wanted to make this, since this broke today, Marcus Arbery, the father of Ahmaud Arbery, reacted to the jury's decision to convict the three men of murder by delivering a uniting message outside the courthouse. And I want to quote what he said. He says, "All lives matter. For real, all lives matter, not just black children. We don't want to see nobody go through this. I don't want to see no daddy watch their kid get shot down like that." So I thought that was a really good message, especially since we've been going through such a contentious time with race, with the police, and things like this. Just want to get you guys' quick thoughts on that, on his comments.
Yeah, I don't think he meant all lives matter as in all lives matter and blue lives matter. That part, I think it was more like no parent wants to see their, like he said, no parent wants to see their child being gunned down like this. It's from a parent's perspective, all lives matter, which he was right. I mean, no parent wants to see their child gunned down like this, or just, in general, just die before them. Really, we don't want to go through that. But that's my take on it. I don't think he, because I saw some comments saying, "Oh, we're going to forgive him this time for saying that." But he said what he said, but it wasn't like what like the all lives matter that the liberals want to say. Oh, all lives matter, that type of thing. In my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know if liberals say that all lives matter. Liberals do not like that phrase. They think that it's a racist phrase, that when people say that, it means that we don't acknowledge the Black lives when we say all lives matter. For some reason, they assume that. And I think that was a good message. And I think in terms of we had 3 cases actually recently that I think our justice system did work in. Kyle Rittenhouse, and we had also Andrew Coffey case, and then this case also. I think that the jury were just in these cases. Sorry, we can't hear you, KJ.
Yeah, sorry. What are your thoughts, Shelly? Just on his words, the dad's words to the verdict.
Yeah, I think his words were the human, or the human thing. They spoke to the humanity, if you will. What else could he say? I mean, what else? He could say something else, but
what other message, if you will, is it really important, is really meaningful to say other than that?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any thoughts, Xandria, on the dad's comments about the verdict? Any quick thoughts?
I agree. It was a nice message. I don't think there was anything politically motivated in it. I think he's just speaking, like Shelly said, from a human perspective. Hey, these are our kids. We don't want to see this happen to anybody. And I agree with Yana. I think in that case, the jury was fair as well. So, there were a lot of people saying that had Ahmaud been, had he lived, right, a case of self-defense would have been fair there. And I agree. So, I don't think there wasn't necessarily anything political for his dad to make of this case. People did a wrong, and, it's unfortunate. I feel for his family. So, what else can he say besides to wish well on everybody else?
All right. All right. So moving right along, we're moving into our actual first topic of the night, which is the leftist response to the Rittenhouse verdict. So as we know, the Rittenhouse verdict came out. Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty on all accounts. And that's been kind of talked about the actual trial. And so we're not going to really get too much into the specifics and the details of the trial tonight. Wanted to specifically focus on the response of the media, which is pretty leftist right now, and the misinformation campaign leading up to this trial. I contend that it's dangerous to all Americans. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on that, just specifically regarding Saturday. MSNBC's Tiffany Cross and her guest, Ellie Mistel, did not pull any punches when expressing their frustrations with the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse. She said Rittenhouse as a little murderous white supremacist. What are your thoughts, Shelly, on that, on the state of all this right now?
Well, like the left, for whatever they touch, they tend to hurt and destroy. And this is no different. Their lies are the miscarriage of justice. And their lies really contribute to people being killed or murdered or harmed. So it's really the left, because that's what they do. They destroy, they steal, and they kill. Really, they literally do. They do no good. There's no good that comes from the left. They lied up to the trial. They lied since the incident occurred last year, and they're still lying. And so these lies are going to stay in the public's perception and public's mind for a long time, more than the truth. They will stay longer than the truth will, and they will continue to hurt people, hurt families, hurt communities.
All right.
That sounds like the devil. I know the Bible said the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and you pretty much just described them as the devil.
Yeah, and what I see here is they want to, at this point, the whole goal is to punish white people. I mean, watching that report, she said the words white people and white this and white that, and like constantly. It was unbelievable to watch that. It's like, what era are we in? It's like they just reversed, whatever that. So this is equity for them. So whatever horrible things or unjust things that were done to Black people, this is them doing it to the white people. It's punishment. They don't want equality. This is punishing. And this made me think of what Kamala Harris said, that we have to rethink our justice system, and our justice system is still not equitable. So after hearing the verdict, so basically she's saying that he should have been charged, he should have been convicted because he was white, because there were Black people in the past or even currently that were not justly convicted. So, and yeah, so That's what I see. They're just punishing. They don't care about equality or the justice system. And yes, they're lying.
Yeah, Xandria, so what do you say? I mean, we're talking, Yana said something about punishing white people. How do you feel as far as the response that they've given, the mainstream media, the left?
Sure.
Where are they pulling this contempt from?
So one, I just want to add to what Yana said. It's cases where they feel that the person was not justly convicted. In some cases, the person was justly convicted, right? But to your point, KJ, to your question, the left is addicted to being angry. They are addicted to having a victimhood mentality. Everybody is a victim to something where they need to have somebody to blame for everything wrong that happens in their lives or in the collective left world. There's just this hatred against anybody whose views are not theirs, and they're going to use white privilege, and they're going to use all these baited words, emotional rhetoric to get people on board with this. They don't care about facts. They don't care about what actually happens in cases. It's literally, face front, or what's the word? Just, it's almost like they're basing all these judgments on physical appearance, right? Which they claim to be against, right? That is racism, but literally that's what they're doing. And it's interesting. Like, Kyle's not just white; he is Hispanic. All these people become one thing or the other all of a sudden during these big trials and during these big news media.
And they're totally forgetting that there was another case on the same day of a Black man, Andrew Coffey, that was charged with attempted murder, and actually charged with murder as well. And he was found not guilty because it was a drug raid, and he was acting in self-defense. He didn't know who was behind his window. There was police, but he didn't know. So he was, and he was found not guilty, and he was a Black person. So, and they don't talk about that. So they don't talk about whether that, do they agree with that decision?
Yeah, let me jump in there because I want to run back to, and I want to get your thoughts on this, T, as far as the idea that that they want to punish white people. Do you feel as though this is what they're saying? They want to punish white people, and they're addicted to being angry after these responses that we heard on MSNBC?
Is that who we're talking about? The MSNBC or media?
Well, we're talking about the leftist media and their reaction to Kyle Rittenhouse's the verdict here. I mean, we have I mentioned some of the comments in the beginning. Something else she did say. She says the fact because that Kyle has been given the opportunity, or a lot of congressmen have asked him to intern. And for congressmen, generally Republican congressmen. And so one thing she responded to that on the MSNBC correspondent, she says, the fact white supremacists roam the halls of Congress freely and celebrate this little murderous white supremacist, and the fact that he gets to walk the streets freely, it lets you know these people have access to instituting laws. They represent the legislative branch of this country.
Well, apparently they don't know anything about law and government because this is the law. The law is what prevailed here. Justice is really what prevailed in these cases. I mean, the same thing happens when the shoe is on the other foot, and like in the Arbery case, same thing happened. This is the law, and this is the sad part, is that they have the media talking this rhetoric and spreading this rhetoric, and this is where the mistake comes. This is where how we get people who are arguing and debating with on a daily, because they're hearing these lies, and then this is the fight. The fight with the left and the right is really media and their lies that they're spreading, and they want to make everything racist on top of that. When it's, I mean, half the time, most of the time, it's not even that, because they still bring it up. Oh, I asked someone the other day, oh, he killed Black people. Rittenhouse killed Black people, and they're just gonna let him go. What Black people did he kill? Why are you making this about race? Where did race come in at here? Where? And they can't tell me. You can't point to where race has anything to do with this case.
But is it working? I mean, do you guys think? I mean, they they continue to push this race on this trial. And I mean, we all can, we see this had nothing to do with race, but they keep pushing. Is it working? Are people believing this narrative?
Unfortunately, some people are believing it. Some people are, and some people are not. So this is, again, this is typifies the great divide that we have in our country right now. There's the left, and then there's the right, or the conservatives. There really are not even any moderates anymore. Or I would even suggest that moderates are really confused, because we are at a point now, you have to take a stand. You have to take a stand, whatever the issue is. But the left is set out to destroy. They want to tear down the institutions, the systems that they always talk about in America, which will bring about chaos. This is what the left does. It has been done since time began, almost in almost every other country, particularly in Europe and South America. This is no different. They want the chaos. In order for socialism to take place, certainly communism, there will have to be chaos, destruction in America. They want to dismantle the very foundations on which the USA has been built.
Yeah, and they want to, I'm sorry, I was going to say they want to pin people against each other. Like, that's what I thought watching that report on MSNBC. One of the guests said that after this case, after the verdict, people now are afraid to go on the street and peacefully protest because they would be shot and there would be no consequences. She literally said that on TV. So, like, these people who would be watching that, are they really going to, I mean, I just wonder, how many of them will actually believe that if they go to just protest on the street, they'll be shot and there'll be no consequences because these murderous white people are walking around just shooting people. And so they want to create this message in people's heads and for us to fear each other.
And one last thought on this is, as far as another thing people have been saying is, if Kyle Rittenhouse were black, he wouldn't have gotten off. What are your thoughts to that, Xandria? They're saying if he were black, then he would not have gotten off.
So I think the case with, first of all, that's not true. There's this constant comparison that the left does, and they constantly compare cases that are not related, like are not the same thing, right? They're making it seem like Kyle was this vigilante who wanted trouble and wanted to find people to be aggressors towards and go after. Kyle was at that protest for hours before anything happened, right? He didn't, I mean, they're even comparing it, for instance, to the case in Wisconsin where the guy just drove into people, right? Like, they're very different cases. They're not.
Wasn't he black? That guy?
Yeah, he was. And we'll talk about that down the road. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't compare cases like that, number one. Two, they're totally different, where one was clearly a perpetrator and one didn't act until he was attacked. I think the case with Ahmaud, people are saying that, unfortunately, he's not alive. He was killed. But had he been alive and he had used self-defense, he would have won in court. I'm pretty sure he would have won in court based on the video evidence and all of the evidence coming in. The video evidence is very strong, too. So, I don't agree with that sentiment. I think that's a lot of the left talking. And don't forget, the left even turns against blacks when the Republicans are conservative, because they're the ones that preach, like Larry Elder is a black white supremacist. You know what I mean? So you just can't win if you're on the right.
It's their delusion again. Here they go. They always want to do the shoulda, woulda, couldas when we can't even practice that shoulda, woulda, coulda in any of these cases, because it wasn't. If he wasn't black, like, this is a part of their delusion.
Yeah, and by the way, BLM is in their riots right now, or in their chants. They're chanting for Kyle Rosenbaum. Okay, they don't even know who this man is.
Right.
Wasn't he like a child molester and a rapist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
11 counts of molestation.
I'm not saying nobody wants anybody to die, right? I'm not saying that, but like, they have no awareness of who they're chanting for. Can you even take
These are the heroes. These are their heroes.
Yeah. So, if you are watching and you're out here protesting and you're chanting and you're holding up signs for, this Rosenbaum guy, the guy that Kyle Rittenhouse shot in self-defense, do your homework on him. He's a child rapist and molester of 9 and 11-year-old boys. So that's who you out here uplifting and doing all this stuff about.
But to be fair, we can't bring his past in it because it really had nothing to do, didn't have anything to do with it.
Sure,
I agree.
They tried to do the same thing to George Floyd. They tried to do the same thing to George Floyd when it really didn't have anything to do with his past and have anything to do with him.
But it speaks to who they are upholding and who they're making out into martyrs and who they're glorifying. It speaks to that mindset.
That they don't care. They don't care about what this person is. This person, was he as a good citizen? Was he there for a good cause? I understand if this was really a peaceful protester who was just shot for no reason and he was there to peacefully protest, but this is not the case at all. And these people were there to cause trouble. Like, they are disgusting, dirty, nasty people that just live in the gutter, and they come out to these terrible events to just cause more trouble.
Man, he had charges on him for starting fires. He had been starting fires that night. And not only that, but it goes to his mindset. He had just gotten out of a mental hospital. He was off of his medication.
Right. Remember, the left was so hard on President Trump because they tried to link him to the KKK and the white supremacists and saying that he attracted all of these types of people. Well, why don't we ask the same of the left? Because look who they attract at their peaceful protests. Look at the kinds of people that they attract. Why don't we ask that question? How is it that you attract these bad guys all the time to your protests?
All right. Well, on that note, we have to move on from there. But yes, that is a good question to ask. So we're a bunch
of perverts.
Yeah. We'll continue to follow this story. Join the conversation by leaving a comment on our Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. Also subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Check us out on the web at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. Again, we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. So we are moving right along to our pop-off round. This is a rapid-fire round. In 20 seconds or less, I'll ask a question. Actually, I'll ask a question, and in 20 seconds or less, the host will respond to the question.
20? I thought it was 30.
You guys go too long. You go too long. I gotta get 20 seconds.
We've been doing very well with 30 seconds.
It's a setup.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I need a little timer in the corners, the little sand.
All right. Okay. All right, so we are starting off with Shelly. So during a mass at St. Francis of Assisi Church in Baltimore, a Catholic priest asked a student to remove her gay pride shirt. The Archdiocese of this priest has gotten caught a lot of fire behind this. The Archdiocese of Baltimore defended the action of the St. Francis Church and school, saying the T-shirt's imagery opposes church teachings. Mm-hmm. Do you think the priest was wrong to ask the girl to remove her gay pride shirt? Why or why not?
I think he was wrong. I think during a mass, for someone to come up to ask you to remove your clothing, I think I think it's inappropriate. But I think, if I were not mistaken, then what I read was that it was during her school mass that they have during the school day. I think one of their
they go from the school to the church.
Okay, so yes, I think he was wrong. Not only that, I think it was embarrassing, and to embarrass her like that in front of the whole church, I think that was inappropriate. I think maybe had he taken her to the side after the mass and talked with her, but also she was wearing that shirt in honor of her mother, if I'm not mistaken, from what I read. So yes, I think the priest was wrong.
All right, moving right along to Xandria. So, QAnon shaman Jacob Chansley was sentenced to 41 months in prison for the January 6th Capitol riot case. Chansley's sentence was on the low end of the range. However, it also is tied for the longest sentence issued to date for any of the Capitol riot defendants who have pleaded guilty. So he got 41 months in prison. Prosecutors said Chansley sat in Prince's seat on the days. They said he refused an order by a police officer to leave, instead calling other rioters up to the area and leading them in an incantation over his bullhorn. Chansley left a note on the days which said, "It's only a matter of time, justice is coming," and called Pence a effing traitor. Do you feel this sentence is just? Why or why not?
So I don't know all the particular, in addition to what you mentioned, like I don't know all the legal particulars that they put him on, like breaking and entering, all the specific charges. But
No,
I mean,
the charges. Those were those were the charges I mentioned.
Okay.
It was the
Yeah.
They said he refused an order by police to leave, so he broke and entering, calling the other rioters up and leading them in to the Capitol. And he started that incantation, left the note, and so he was inside.
Yeah, so I would say yes, it is just, because the minute that the police are involved and they're telling you, hey, you got to get out of here, and you're facilitating more people coming in. There were a lot of people there that day that kind of were in the wrong place, wrong time. He was more in a, creating trouble type of position. So I would say, yeah, it's just the police told him he couldn't be doing what he's doing, and he did it anyways. So it is what it is. You can't break and enter, and you can't do that on Capitol ground. So, unfortunate, but yeah.
All right, moving right along. This one is for Yana. So, Yana, you have stated on the show that you are pro-life. Are you also against IVF and the death penalty? Why or why not?
Wow, those are two questions. Do I get 60 seconds? So yeah, that's really a good question. IVF, I have thought about that, and I came across an article recently about it that made me think about it again. And I have to say that yes, I would be ethically against IVF, because I think that it's kind of selfish. I think I empathize with people who cannot have children, but they have to exhaust other options before they create embryos and then kill the embryos, or some of them die. And they're also adoption. I mean, it is a bit selfish that you want to create something that you're not able, and you're doing whatever possible when there are children that need a family. So I think ethically it's not the best choice. And death penalty, that is a really hard one for me as well. So it's hard for me to answer. I mean, in some cases, I think in very, like the ones that we absolutely sure, I have to say that I probably would agree with death penalty. But there are some cases where, I wouldn't want an innocent person to be executed. So that's a really tough one.
All right, Auntie. So, popular conservative radio talk show host here in Baltimore, Tori Snow, announced on social media this week that he has changed his party affiliation from Republican to unaffiliated, so independent. He shared that the change was due to the MDGOP's embrace of the gospel of Trump. That was his words. After former President Trump endorsed Dan Cox for governor. I want to read to you what he wrote. He says, Trump's toxic influence on our national dialogue continues to poison our nation, weaken us as a people. No amount of economic prosperity will tempt me to overlook the damage that has been done to the fabric of this nation. So, my question to you is, do you think Maryland Republicans should embrace Trump as they campaign for the statewide races? Or should they distance themselves? Why or why not?
No, Trump is still a former president, regardless of what people may think bad, different, or indifferent about it. He's still a former president. He should still endorse, just like any other past president. Obama has endorsed other people. I think that the what they call the Trump party, that's a totally different thing, but it's still a thing. I mean, Trump did change the fabric of the Republican Party. But what I try to get people to realize is that Trump just got here. He just became a Republican not many years before he ran as a Republican candidate. So, I mean, but he still ran as a Republican. And so, I mean, he still is a former president. So I don't know why that would have so much of an influence on Tory's decision, because it is what it is, just like any other past president has influence on people's decisions. But I don't think he should have taken it that seriously. But yeah, Trump still is a factor, and he will remain a factor because he is a president. He was a president, regardless.
All right, guys. So join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook,
YouTube.
YouTube.
A real Republican anyway, though, but whatever.
Okay. So join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. Do you have a question that you'd like to hear answered by one of the co-hosts? Email me at kj@metroconservativemedia.com. We will ask the co-host your question during our pop-off. All right, so we are moving on to round 2. Going into a little pop culture here with the new movie King Richard. So King Richard is in theaters now, starring Will Smith as the Grand Slam winning Serena and Venus Williams' father. King Richard will show how a man with no background, that's their dad, in the sport, and very limited financial resources guided his daughters to unprecedented success. But that is not where this father's story begins. This previously untold story starts in Los Angeles, where Richard was living with his then wife, Betty Johnson. She had one child from another relationship, and they together had 5 more. So Richard Williams told his eldest daughter, Sabrina at the time, this is one of the 5, she was 8, he was going out to buy her a bike before walking out the door, never to return, leaving his wife Betty to raise their 6 children alone. So, want to ask you guys, where's the father? How has fatherlessness affected communities, specifically urban communities? And so, how has it affected it, and what is the cause? So, I want to start with you, Shelly.
Okay, let me take the lesser of the 2 questions. What is the cause? I would say that the cause is selfishness. And I know that there are many reasons why people get divorced, break up. I get that. But if a man cannot get along with his wife or the baby mama, then my question is, well, why would you leave a child to be totally 100% influenced by that particular bad influence? At least if you're in the life of the child, you would at least have a 50% chance of influencing the child to a better side. So that logic does not fly with me. A man, those are your children. You need to be in that child's life. That's number 1. Number 2, what are some consequences of that? Oh, we have a whole slew of evidence. We know that children who are raised without fathers, by and large, they don't do well in school. They have psychological, some deficiencies or some psychological challenges. They they lack discipline. A lot of them, or some of them, may go to gangs, or just be wayward, if you will, in the community. So that's just putting a little bit on the whole cake. That's not even the half of the story. Not to mention their feeling of abandonment by one of their parents, the primary caretakers in their lives. So I don't buy this bogus stuff that, oh, I can't get along with the baby mama. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can't. I'm not saying that all women are going to be able to get along or well getting along, but to leave a defenseless child in that situation completely without your protection, your guidance, or some influence is abominable to me.
All right. Yana, so why do we have this fatherlessness going on in these communities?
I think the number one reason is the welfare system. And, we can talk about individual responsibility, and that's true as well. But we do have this welfare system where women are supported by the government. They can always rely on the government, and men know that as well.
Now, let
So,
me ask you, because only a total of 13% of all U.S. women aged 22 to 30 receive welfare. So, do you think that is a large factor in this when you're talking about government assistance being the charge of
well,
fatherhood?
the majority of single mothers receive welfare support.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because as women have become more independent, working outside the home, making money, becoming educated, not necessarily so anymore.
Well, I mean, I was looking it up today, and I mean, from what I remember, majority of, I mean, it's understandable a single mother will apply for assistance. That is understandable. So, but also we have another statistic is that in the Black community, 72% of single mother single mothers are not married. I mean, obviously, that, and so they never got married. So, so I see a woman, first of all, choosing the wrong partner, not thinking ahead that what will happen. Maybe she was in love and she thought, things are going to work out, but she's not thinking critically and logically. And so, because she knows she will be able to get that assistance. So maybe, they'll eventually get off of that assistance. But initially, they know that there's the safety net. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, but there has to be more of consequence of women relying on that. And also of men thinking, well, if she's pushing me away, whatever. And also, like what you were asking, what it creates. And yes, it creates unstable children that have psychological problems. Boys that do not know how to be men. They are raised by women alone, and they then grow up and do not know how to take care of their children. So it perpetuates a cycle. It creates women who do not trust men. So girls that grow up in that household, they also do not know how to choose their partner because they see their mother having a bad relationship with the father or no relationship at all. So it's an epidemic, and it has to be, and it is a system. If you punish people, well, meaning you remove welfare or you make it really strict, because right now what I know is that even if you have a man living in your house, you cannot apply for that assistance. So they don't even want the man around, and women need to be thinking that the man should be their support system, not the government.
All right. Xandria, I mean, what's your take on it? Why do we have this fatherlessness in our communities in the United States? Because it's not happening as frequently in other countries.
I think a big piece of it is the results of when somebody tries to re-enter from incarceration, right? Or they're an incarcerated father, then they don't have access to their children. Substance abuse and mental health. I think those are three things that really make a bigger impact, and sometimes they're kind of forgotten. So I'm not saying that people that commit crimes shouldn't be incarcerated, but I'm just saying when that person is removed from society and placed in a jail, right? They're no longer in their family, so to say. I mean, they have very limited access. I've seen, and I don't remember what it was, but I was watching this one program where a jail actually created a program for parents, fathers, to have frequent interactions with their kids, so that they could still remain that father figure even while they're in even while they're incarcerated. I think it's also a spiral, right? A lot of the time, if somebody is re-entering, they may have mental health or trauma that leads to mental health, or it's the other way around. People have trauma that leads to mental health, that leads to substance abuse, that leads to incarceration, and it's just cyclical because there's never anything in between to help them along the way to get the mental, to get the mental health and their mental health in a good place.
So 70% of women are single mothers. If that's what I believe Yana said. So then
in the Black community,
in the Black community, okay, so 70% of mothers.
It's 70% of Black babies born to unmarried mothers.
And it's about 40%. It's about 40% for all women.
Okay, so then, so what you're saying here is there's a large amount of people incarcerated, and that's why they don't have any fathers.
I'm just saying it's a component of it, right? Especially if you look at Baltimore City specifically. So Maryland, let's just take Maryland. Maryland has the highest incarceration rate in the nation of Black men aged 18 to 24. Those are kind of fathered ages, right? Those are the ages that a lot of men become fathers. So in some capacity or another, when they become incarcerated, they're no longer present in their children's lives. I'm not saying that's the only factor, but it does play a role. The second highest incarceration rate for Black men, that's in Mississippi. A lot of the nonprofit, and I don't even like to say nonprofit because these are some of the organizations in Baltimore City that are really doing the work. They don't receive national attention and they don't receive all the funds, but they're doing the work. And these groups are for resolving trauma and creating young men, Black leaders, young Black male leaders, right? Because that is where they see the solution to the lack of fatherhood, or these fathers that aren't present in people's lives. So I think it plays a big it plays a big piece in it.
Let me get you in here, T. What are your thoughts on this? What is causing fatherlessness in urban communities?
Please. Oh, so that was the question in urban communities, because I wasn't sure on why we started talking about Black fathers being in prison.
Well, the question was not. Well, if we're talking about just fatherlessness in general, but the real fatherlessness is in urban communities or Black communities.
And in the video, right? In the movie, it is
right with the Serena Williams sister.
Okay. Yeah. I noticed that. Other than Xandria, I noticed that the other hosts were talking about, somehow we're talking about fatherlessness, but we were talking about women. So I think that everyone would agree that fatherlessness kind of the reason we have fatherlessness because of the women, because of their choices, and because of the fact that most times, I don't know, we need to get the other side of the story with King Richard, because why did he leave? Why did he not come back? You know what I mean? It had to have been some reason other than him just abandoning his children, because obviously he's not.
Why people abandon their children?
I understand that.
Because a lot of people. I just want to ask, if I'm sorry to just jump in before you move on from there, because a lot of people, especially with mothers that I know of, that's not even an option. So you have mothers who are leaving, not coming back. You have mothers who are in. Or you have women who are actually in domestic violence situations and not leaving because of their children. So why are we giving the option? Why are we saying that is an excuse? What is the excuse? What could the excuse be for a man to leave 5?
Woman's baby, father's maybe. That's not.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Can I make my point? So what I'm saying is, it's not an option for women. That has nothing to do with the fact that there is still fatherlessness and the fact that women have some type of influence in the fatherlessness. What other? There are women, there are men who just completely don't want to raise their children for whatever reasons, but the majority of the time it's because of something that the woman has caused.
But how about a woman picking the wrong guy?
That too.
Maybe she did.
He was not
Maybe
a
she
good
did.
guy to begin with.
Maybe she
And-
did, but the baby is here. They both made the baby. And if she is that, let's say, unstable or that difficult, maybe she is. I'm not excusing women's choices.
How do you make babies, Shelly?
There's a baby.
How do you make babies, Shelly?
There's two. That's what I mean. Two people.
No,
exactly.
I think another.
How do you
You have
make
to
babies?
accept the
I'm trying to
guy
get to a point here.
in
How do you
order
make
to make a
babies?
baby.
You got to have sex. Most times they're just thinking about sex. They're just thinking about that moment of pleasure.
Or they want to keep him somehow. Or they want to have a baby so they can trap him.
I think
and he's not a trappable guy, so he's
like
just gonna go.
There are women like that.
Hold
but
up.
I think both parents have a responsibility. And I think another thing too is a lot of the time it happens when people have their kids too young and they weren't prepared for what's to come, right? Because usually down the road, somewhere along the way, that relationship breaks apart. Right? It usually doesn't last like 20 years. Somewhere along that way, that relationship, if they're like a young couple,
and
right?
and
If
another
they're not together, it doesn't mean that they cannot take care of the kid. Like they can separate, they can divorce. It doesn't mean that one of them has to disappear.
Right.
So,
and another thing, I don't want to say that most Black men are in prison or have mental issues either. Like all the men, I mean,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying
3 degrees
if they have
hold
mental
on.
issues or if they are incarcerated, it plays a role.
That wouldn't be a reason for the majority of fatherlessness because the Black men that I know and most Black men actually are fathers and they are with their children and they are college graduates and they do have jobs and they do go to work. So I wouldn't even put mental issues in that as a reason.
It's not even a Black father thing. It's any family that has a component of mental health, right?
What's the statistic? I mean, you don't have to.
Well, I mean, here the statistic. Like, look, there 30% or 31% of Maryland residents. I was just focusing on Maryland, right? Let's just focus on Maryland for a second. 31% of Maryland residents are Black, and 70% of the prison population is Black. Okay, so if you're talking about Black homes, Black families,
but Black people are the minority here. Like, how many white people are in prison?
Well,
do you know that statistic?
It's less than 70% is Black, which means the rest is
other white.
Well, white or Hispanic or Asian, right? So it's going to go white, Hispanic, Asian, or yeah. So I don't have the statistics in the other direction because the article that I was.
So someone put a comment up. It's talking about the CDC. It was I think it was a National Institutes of Health study talking about the racial and ethnic differences among different groups of the non-present parent, mostly fathers. And that report did show that among the different groups of people, Black fathers tend to be more involved with their children, even though they're not fully present there. But there were also some points made. There were some racial and cultural factors that played upon that, well, making that happen or not happen. And that report also showed that, or that wasn't that report, another report showed that among the different groups, Black people, Black fathers still have a lower employment factor or economic factor that plays a part. And the culture of the Black community, by and large, particularly with Black mothers, is that it's an extended family that raises the kid, more so than other groups where they have the primary parents raising the children. Black people tend to focus on grandma, aunts, and uncles, or grandma and aunties, whereas other groups focus on mommy and daddy.
Yeah, so because most times we aren't patriarchal, we're matriarchal. We want to uplift the women and stuff instead of not looking at the men as leaders. Like Anthony Bascom said, he said, women complicating relationships and not allowing men to be the leader are the reasons for their fatherlessness in the home, which, yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I just want to add
I don't necessarily agree with that, but okay.
I don't either. To me, I look at it like this, and I'm not talking about before the child comes. Okay, because that's a whole nother issue we have here, where people are shacking up and having sex before marriage.
Right.
They're not making a commitment. That's a whole nother issue. But I'm speaking to, as in this situation, once the children are here, why do we have a situation where these fathers are leaving?
So I just
Or
want to bring it back to my
women.
original point of welfare.
No, because again, you're saying the women can leave too. They don't.
But they don't.
Right,
Right,
but
that's what I'm
women can disallow men from being in a relationship.
Nobody can disallow me
With
to
their children. Yes, they
Listen,
can.
with the
Nobody can
incarceration, for example,
disallow
there's
me to do anything
legal.
with my child.
What? I missed that.
Yeah,
But what I was saying is,
you're not going to disallow me to do something with my child. But we find in these
Yeah.
situations
Speaking as a woman,
where the
but as a
men
man,
are
it's
not.
a different perspective.
The men are somehow. If you're a man, you're being disallowed.
They
to
don't
have
want to go through the drama of trying to see their child and having to deal with the woman.
Because the child is
worth
at
it.
risk. The child is at risk. It's not about the
Yeah.
father. It's not about his being
Tell
able
the
to go
women
through
that.
something. It's
Tell
the
the women
child is
that's
at
in
risk.
the drama that.
The child
What
is at
about
risk. Yes,
these
women can
fathers
be
didn't
dramatic.
have-
I
these
agree with
fathers
you. I'm not
did not
saying that
grow
the
up with
women
a
don't
father
make it
themselves.
easy. But
So
the
if they grew
child
up-
is
sorry.
the focus should be on the child, not the man's, whether or not his ego or whether or not he's feeling low or she's not feeding his ego. The child should be the focus, not his cojones.
Well, I mean,
I
Like
don't
I
know what I
said, you have women who are they're getting their behinds beat, and they're saying, I can't leave because I can't leave my son, I can't leave my daughter. But you have men who are not coming back after going to the store. Nothing.
have you ever seen?
I think
It's a cultural. It's a cycle that keeps repeating. I mean, you can't really. I'm just thinking these fathers probably didn't have a father themselves, and they never saw. And these children did have a mother, so they saw a mother working hard. And women have a higher tolerance to routine, stress, like stress that is ongoing, like everyday stress. Women do have a higher tolerance to that, and men, they're good at some like short-term stress.
Right.
And if it's an ongoing stress, they break. I mean, I'm not saying it's an excuse and it's a wrong thing to do, but that's what happens.
What Giovanni just wrote. I was going to say what Giovanni just wrote in the comment was kind of part of, not related to the incarceration, but the legal piece that I was saying. Women will hold the children against fathers and then claim victim status that the father wasn't there. That does happen. There are times that men are legally pushed out of the relationship. They're not allowed to be, they're not allowed to see the kid.
What's the percentage of that? What's the percentage of that?
Very small. That's a small percentage compared to the ones who just abandon their children and don't come back. That's a small percentage. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
I don't think so. Like I hear more so just from talking to I talk across a lot of people and guys especially, but I'm comparing the notes and even from women, because women will admit that they start a lot of drama, and just comparing the notes just in real time for people on the ground. I don't think that it's more of the women.
Saying to go through the legal process, it's a small percentage. It happens in the culture, if you will, and just a regular relationship where, again, I agree, women can be dramatic and they can, make it so frictious or fractious the relationship. But why, as a man, why would you leave your child to be 100% influenced by that? Whereas at least if you're there, at least it's a 50%.
The system backs them up, though. They can't even take it to court because the system backs up the woman.
The first thing that the courts will consider is the best interest of the child. That means the child's preference is also given thought by the court. So if the child is of age, they will ask the child, where do they want to be? So generally the desires. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I think we have a quote from Jesse Lee Peterson.
Oh, go ahead and read. I can't see.
Okay.
There's no such thing as deadbeat dads. It's another lie made up by feminists. Men love their kids and want to raise them, but angry women and corrupt family courts alienate them. Fathers are seen as sperm donors and ATMs. Child support is abused, causing men to walk away. Feminist
Yep.
hashtag feminist lies.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to see the numbers behind that. Where's the data that backs that up?
Look,
So
I mean,
that's just why I agree. I totally agree this happens, but I want to see the numbers.
Yeah, I like Jesse Peterson, but I think he's wrong.
Right.
I think he's right. I think he's right.
Well, you
There
can tell me where are the receipts? Where are the receipts?
I can tell you that.
But I don't think we'll be able to capture these
and
numbers.
look, this may be
We won't
anecdotal,
be able
but
to capture this type of stuff.
I can count on the number of fingers on my hand.
You won't be able to
of men
capture.
I know that are in that situation in some
I
capacity.
can't say anything. I said I don't think we can be able to capture this type of situations, but I do know because the court is biased to women.
Yeah.
But I do know it happens, and I do know because there, of course, the court. If you look at the numbers, the data, it's going to say, oh, women are, I don't know shit. I mean, hell, I don't know what the number is going to say, but I'm just saying in real life, this is what happens because you can make anything seem any kind of way you want to. The numbers and the data.
I believe this happens, but like I said, I do have faith in our law and order system. I do believe that it works. And so again, and you do have in a lot of these cases, you're not talking about infants most times, you're talking about children of age who do have some direction in who they want to live with. You're also looking at the safety of the child, the home environment, emotional attachment. So, and again,
yeah,
so
no,
that
Devon said, look at the Jeffrey Younger situation in Texas. That's a prime example. I mean, unfortunately, he lost his life because of it, but you're not going to be able to capture that type of. The courts don't really. I don't think the courts really want fathers in the house because that way they don't have or to have control over their own children. That way they want the government. We talk about it all the time. The government wants to control your children. The government wants to control your family. So of course they're going to be biased when it comes to involving your family in the court system.
No, you could be true. You could be right. We definitely want to revisit this because this can be a whole show, and perhaps we can get some people on, some subject matter experts, maybe some attorneys who can speak to this. People who work in children's court, family court, and can speak to it.
And I think it's also complicated because the cases are also different. Right. But you have cases where also men just kind of like they know they're not going to necessarily win the battle in court. So they just kind of
give up. They give up
and they kind of
give up.
They give up
in part.
But women don't have that option by and large.
Well, I don't know.
But we will end it on there because we are running out of time here. Like I said, we can definitely revisit this conversation and get some subject matter experts in. Thanks, guys. Say again.
I am a subject matter expert.
Attorney in family court?
No, but I'm a subject matter expert.
Join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. Also, subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Check us out on the web, www.metroconservativemedia.com, for up-to-date information. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, so we are moving right along. Let's see here. Do we have a pop flop this week? Let me see here. All right. Yes. So we are moving right along to our Declare It a Crisis Baltimore campaign. So this week, we are talking about the tragic death of Del Monte Keels. He was found on October 6th at 11:22 p.m. In Baltimore. He was cause of death is a shooting. He was shot, 16 years old. So this is something that we have been talking about for all year. We have been talking about this. This is a crisis, and we want to raise awareness about this. Please hashtag declare it a crisis Baltimore and post on your social media. Like I've mentioned, we have been talking about this all year. I want you to take a look at what has been going on in Baltimore.
And that marks 302 homicides in the city so far this year.
343 people have been killed in our city.
We shouldn't even be talking about 300 murders.
For the second year in a row, Baltimore has surpassed more than 300 homicides.
The city went above 300 murders this year.
This is absurd.
More than 300 dead, and it's only early November.
Baltimore has reached a grim milestone.
Here we go again. The third year in a row, the city has reached 300 homicides.
Why are we here at 300?
300 murders this year.
The 300th homicide for the year. That comes after 3 people were killed yesterday.
It's disgusting. It's become our logo. It's almost become our brand.
300 murders so far this year.
The 299th and 300th murder victims were shot to death here off Monroe Street.
We cannot, as elected officials, shake this responsibility. 300 murders in Baltimore is unacceptable.
It's like the city leadership wants us to think this is normal.
For the 6th straight year in a row, Baltimore City records 300 homicides.
I will aim to reduce homicides by 15% each year in my term, getting us below 300 homicides in my first year as mayor.
The city does not have any leadership, and because of that, people are dying.
For a 7th year in a row, Baltimore reaches another grim milestone, 300 homicides.
Tonight, we learned that it is a 5-year-old girl that officially pushes Baltimore City's homicide death rate this year and for another year to at least 300.
Enough is enough. I've had enough.
Why is 300 the number?
Why is 300 the number?
Why is 300
Why is 300?
Why is 300
the number?
300 the number.
300 the number.
Why is 300 the number?
Why is 300 the number?
So, it's tough to watch. It is tough to watch when we see all of it, the data put together. 7 years, over 300 murders. So again, declare it a crisis, Baltimore. Hashtag that. We have this video posted on our social media, on our pages and Facebook and Instagram. Please share. Why is 300 the number? It shouldn't be the number. We should not be going through this, and change needs to happen now. All right. So moving right along, actually, we're talking about rogue prosecutors. As we all know, prosecutors play a role in crime and punishment within Baltimore City and every city across the nation. But right now, we have a situation where these prosecutors are being funded by leftist organizations. One is by George Soros, and they are trying to just change the way our law and order system work, and it doesn't seem to be working. I want to start with you, Shelly. What do you think about these rogue prosecutors and what they're doing?
Wow. Talking about this topic and just seeing the 300, that video, is very sobering. But by these prosecutors across the country, like you said, they're funded by George Soros nonprofit, I guess, from Philadelphia, in Chicago, Los Angeles, other places, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and unfortunately here in Baltimore. What they are doing is they are, again, I said it earlier, they are contributing to the deaths and the mayhem that we have on our streets. With their policies, they are refusing to prosecute criminals, repeat criminals, violent criminals, because they are on this agenda, this mission to rewrite history and to rectify the wrongs of the past and apply it to today. The people that are hurting the most, who they claim to be protecting, Black people, namely, they are the people, very people who are being slaughtered They are people who are being slaughtered, largely by other Black people, but they are people being slaughtered nonetheless.
All right. What are your thoughts on this, Yana? What's behind this rogue prosecutors? Why is this becoming so prevalent within cities across the country?
I think it again comes back to equity, and this is them trying to equate people and to say that, okay, if something was done in the past a certain way and we should now do it, we should correct the evils of the past in some very weird way.
And so why is that wrong? Why is that wrong?
Because we want equality. Like, equality is a good thing. So we need to be charging, we shouldn't be looking at how the person looks or their income and what their status is. They should all be equal under the law. Their race should not matter. At this point, they're looking at Baltimore, for example, and they say, well, Baltimore is mostly Black, so let's not charge people with, if it's a lesser offense, if it's a theft or a robbery, let's not really prosecute them, because it brings up the statistic of too many Black people in prison again. And so that's not equality. That's not fair. And so there's no fairness in that. It's again trying to inject this Marxist ideology into America.
And so, Xandria, Yana mentioned equity. What's wrong with equity and trying to rewrite the past? Or trying to say, things have been done in the past that may not have been equitable or not have been equal opportunity, and now we want and now they're doing this thing where they're trying to, I guess, make up for it. What's wrong with that?
So it's this idea of equality of outcome. And think about the US. We are a melting pot of cultures and immigration. The country today is not what it was in the 60s and beforehand. I mean, who are all these white people that are hated? The majority of white people in the US now are, I would say, are immigrants. They weren't here during slavery. So and not all Blacks here are generations coming from slavery. There are immigrants too. And then if you go back into that, I mean, that's a whole other topic, but if you look into slavery, it's not even Black versus white throughout the world. So this whole idea of equality of outcome based on historic wrongs and making everybody, the left is now using inequity. It's this big buzzword, but they're making it the number one problem. It's the number one problem that we have to solve. That is top priority before all other problems.
But does it work? Does equity work?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Equality of opportunity works. Equity is this idea that you could have a lazy person and a really ambitious person, and they should end up in the same place.
And also, we don't start all at the same place. So they want everyone to start equally, but right. That's just impossible. That is not physically possible. Not everyone comes from the same background, the same family, and this is not just about income. There could be people from wealthy households that are a mess and they're not able to succeed. So that you cannot just base everything on, we have to try to equalize everyone from the get-go. That is impossible, and we'll never reach equality. And we have total equality. We have to all have opportunities. There should be opportunities available, but the work that you put in is going to be different for each person.
Yeah,
and your thoughts, T? I want to get T's thoughts on this as far as equity. Does it work? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, equity. It's not really, because like Yana said, equity, they want everyone to start at the same level. That's really what equity is. And now they're including it in diversity and inclusion and equity. And it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. I mean, this is what the separate but equal thing in the 60s they were marching and fighting for. And it hasn't happened since then. And we've, gotten more rights and stuff, but I don't think it's gonna be. I mean, we still have to work for whatever we want to accomplish in our lives, no matter your race. But it's not really about race. It's about where you start. You can be black or white. There are white people who have to start at, whatever neighborhoods or whatever they come, lower class or poverty. So it's not really about race. It's about how much ambition, how much you want to get out of your own lifestyle and your own livelihood by working for it. You want.
And
So it's never gonna work.
if I could, what about what people the left says? How I know you saying that there's no way to right the wrongs of the past, but what do you say to people who say, okay, but what about redlining? What about areas where people in housing were discriminated against, and then now they would not be able to create wealth, generational wealth, as some others. I mean,
So I can respond.
all that fresh, or how does that
I'm
work?
not saying there aren't ways to right wrongs, right? There are things that can be done. How do you right wrongs? You help people learn how to create generational wealth. You help people learn how to sustain themselves and not rely on the government.
They gotta learn on their own. We don't even need to be helping anybody learn. I mean, the opportunities are there to learn. There's immigrants that come here. They don't even know what redlining is. And they do end up a lot of times, originally when they first arrived to this country, they end up in the poorest neighborhoods of this country. And actually, a lot of times they turn them around because they.
And I think sometimes even with that, even with immigrants, I've seen. I'm not saying this is the majority of the time, but I've seen where other people in the minority group have better chances than Black people, just because they use that minority and they do what they need to do, what they're supposed to do, but they still use
so it's not that they have better chances. It's not that they have better chances. It's that they take advantage of the opportunities that are before them, and so they use, like you said, they use it.
Opportunity.
But KJ, I want to answer your question about how do we rewrite the wrongs, or I forget how you said. Is that a good thing?
Do we even right the wrongs, or how do we address those wrongs?
Right.
That's what I'm asking.
We can address them to make sure that they don't happen again, but it's immoral to blame one group for something that happened generations ago that they did not do. That would be like me or one of us being accused or taking the blame for something that our adult child did. That's not how our legal system works. That is immoral to do that. So one group that's here now, white people, whatever the left's target group is, they are not responsible for the wrongs of the past. But that doesn't mean we cannot learn from the past, and it doesn't mean we cannot take measures to prevent the bad things, or I would say the illegal and immoral things from happening. We can put things in place, if you will, and we can do that. But to blame a group that totally had nothing to do with it, that is immoral. That is not legal. It's not just.
Right. And what about when you say when you're saying not to blame the people who had nothing to do with it? Then what about some type of economic situation? So, for instance, you have situations where during slavery, people weren't Blacks weren't getting educated the same as their counterparts, and so sometimes you can say that just add to the predicament in a lot of these uneducated Black people. So is there ways to address those wrongs? And again, like redlining, unable to get mortgages or get them at good rates. So
we have to catch up.
That's amazing to hear that, because we have people here who coming into this country without speaking English at all. And they're able to work and save, and they have buy houses within years of coming to this country, barely speaking English. So
and they practice group economics.
I mean, come on, 200 years ago.
Yeah, and wait, let's just talk about. Let's just focus. Let's use Baltimore as an example. Money is pumped into the Baltimore school arena. Okay, it is not used by the local government for its people. right? So if they're talking about economics, right? Yeah, fix the schools. The government should be using the money that they were given to fix the schools for all these people. But this equity, it's a solution illusion. I don't know if that sounds confusing, right? But it really creates more problems, because what they're saying is, you know what, with all these students who cannot even read, because they're graduating age, and they're the same age as another white person who, maybe they're a college graduate, right? They're both college graduate age, high school seniors, right? One can't read who is black in Baltimore City, and one who is white elsewhere can. Let's put them in the same college now, and let's expect the person that can't read who's black to succeed. That person's going to flunk out of school. That is what their equity is. That's where it is, so that doesn't help anybody. They have to actually put, if you're talking about economic, the local governments have the power to do that. They just waste their money. So
all right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we again are out of time. We're at the end of our time. We could continue to talk about this all night long. So I just want to see if we can grab one comment and see what we have here.
They were talking about the women. they were way back there talking about the women.
Oh, still talking about okay. Yeah, that's a hot topic. All right. Well, again, we are at the end of our time, so we will continue to follow this and talk about this, especially since Marilyn Mosby has been in the news. She was spouting off equity and talking about Governor Hogan making comments about the way she's running her office and blaming it on him being his white privilege. So we can again address that at another time, but it kind of runs along the same lines as this. All right, but this brings us to the end of our show. Yes. This brings us to the end of our show. Again, tomorrow is Thanksgiving time, where you take a moment to just reflect on how thankful you are and gathering with family and friends. I just want to do a quick roundtable, if we could, from each of the co-hosts. What are you most thankful for today? 5 seconds.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for my oldest child, the one who made me a mother. Today is her birthday, and she turned 16 years old. Shout out to Zoe Simone.
Oh, happy birthday, Zoe.
Thank you.
Right.
Happy birthday.
And Yana, did you want to go? 5 seconds.
I'm thankful to the experience of working with you guys. I started this year, I believe it was in April, and it's been a wonderful experience getting to know everybody. And it's just been, and you challenged me, and it's been really great. So I'm thankful for you guys and for all the entire Metro Conservative Media team. So please, everybody, subscribe. Whoever's watching, tell your friends.
Absolutely. Xandria, what are you most thankful for today? Within 5 seconds.
She put the timer. Okay. For my family, my boyfriend, you ladies, of course. And I've just met some really remarkable people this year who are just really trying to make a difference. So that's who I'm thankful for.
All right. Shelly E.
Yes, I'm thankful for our family, for friends, for opportunities. And as always, I am so thankful to have been born in this great country.
All right. I'll round it out. I am thankful for the movement. I am thankful for this conservative movement. I think that we are energized and we are getting out to the masses and really pushing truth and facts and common sense. And I'm really excited about this movement. We are at the forefront of this, Metro Conservative Media, with Pop and Politics. Every lady on this show is fierce and fun and just right on it with the facts and information. So I am thankful for this movement, and I can't wait to see what 2022 brings.
Yes.
All right.
You believe we're here in 2022?
I know, but we are here. We are here. So I can't believe it, but I believe it. We are here. So, and again, thankful for that. Thankful for God blessing us with another moment here, because so many people didn't make it within the last year, just with the pandemic and then all kinds of stuff. So I'm thankful for just another breath. So again, that brings us to the end of this show.
What does your shirt say, Shelly? Shelly, what's your shirt say? A person who wins an argument with a liberal. A white person. You gotta put white person.
No,
any person,
God,
any person who loses an argument.
No, Larry Elder.
Yes.
And he
Yeah,
won.
right. Yeah, because that's what they do. They call everybody a racist. All right. So may I begin, or somebody else is going to interrupt me? I try to end the show so I can cook.
Right.
Oh yeah. Facts.
Thanks for watching.
I'm sorry, interrupt. Notice you're cooking. The women are cooking. We support that.
Yes, we do. We support it.
My boyfriend will be helping cook. So.
Okay.
Is he frying the turkey? Yeah, he can fry the turkey.
He loves to do that, but not this time. But.
All right.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye, guys.